Nilesh sir, it is a pleasure to have you on the Money Management Show with IND. In this,
Pleasure is mine, Gaurav.
thank you so much. In this particular series, we always talk about little hacks to manage money, ensure proper way of managing money. You don't actually basically deviate from your overall investment path or a journey that you need to have a compounded growth of your money. The idea is to simplify the jargons of the investment and the noise that is coming out from various sources, and streamline our thoughts of how to manage the money. Today's topic is very very interesting. It is how to make money with equity allocation. We all have been hearing about asset allocation, and it has been a very very loosely used word in the domain. Everybody's talking about asset allocation, but they don't know actually how to basically do the asset allocation in a right manner. People talk about equity, debt, and that's it, a 60-40 allocation, and I'm done for my life. It's not the actual or optimum way to manage money. There has to be some more drill down approach to basically manage the. So I'll leave the floor for you. For the first question, and the simplest one is, what exactly is the asset allocation?
So, Gaurav, asset allocation can best be explained by a thali. For our physical health, when we eat soup, salad, roti, dal, chawal, sabji, and also dessert. Now, soup and salad are healthy food. Dessert is a pleasure food.
Right.
A right balance of that creates good physical health. If you eat only the dessert, you will have diabetes and blood pressure and heart attack.
Correct.
If you eat only soup and salad, you will miss the test. What we are doing for physical health is a proper asset allocation between pleasure and between necessity or health food. The same thing you have to do for your financial health. You don't take too much risk. You divide your risk based on your profile. You divide your portfolio between debt, equity, real estate, gold, and offshore assets, so that over a period of time, this portfolio delivers you real return better than your inflation.
So this is a very very interesting example. You have just nailed the very very simple answer to this. Here the question comes to mind that, okay, it's understood that we need to have multiple investment options to basically cut down the risk or minimize the volatility of our portfolio. But how to define that limit for individual? For a 25-year-old Gaurav Sharma or a 60-year-old different guy, how should one look at this asset allocation? The thumb rule is that have a 80-20 allocation or a 60-40 allocation, you will be in a balanced category and all. But how do I manage it? With the market moves, we saw a significant move in the market. I said I'll have 100% allocation. Out of that 100 rupee bucket, I'll have 60% equity, 40% debt. But now when equity rallied, my 60% actually became 75%. Now, should I trim down my position? Should I basically come back to 60-40? What's your take on that?
So, Gaurav bhai, if you see world's richest people, they have become richer by concentration. Bill Gates, if he had diversified out of Microsoft shares, he would not have become world's topmost billionaire. Jeff Bezos, if he had diversified out of Amazon shares, he would not have become richest person. So what we are talking about is an average person, because everyone cannot become Jeff Bezos or Bill Gates.
Right.
Number two, when we are talking about asset allocation, it is linked to your risk profile. Now, suppose if there is a 130-year-old person who is like Virendra Sehwag, har ball pe chakka marna hai, so his allocation to risk assets will be higher. But there could be another 30-year-old person who is mentally like Rahul Dravid. He will build his inning. Now, both are extremely successful cricketer. One played with fire, other played with caution.
Correct.
So, if your mentality is like Rahul Dravid defensive, don't try to copy Virendra Sehwag. Obviously, Rahul Dravid in T20 will play differently vis-a-vis one day versus test match. but mentality wise, he will be more cautious. So understand yourself honestly, because that will determine what is the risk you can absorb. The third thing, after estimating your risk profile and your investment objective, is to look at the market. In a cheap market, you have to increase your risk. In an expensive market, you have to decrease your risk from wherever you are starting. So this is how the asset allocation is built. One, understanding your risk profile. Second, understanding your investment objectives. And third, looking at market, you allocate your assets. Now, for example, in Jan 2008, there was a big rally. Markets were all-time high. Everyone's equity would have become much more than what they could afford or they wanted. It was time to take profit. In October 2008, everyone suffered losses as market fell from 21,000 Sensex to 8,000 Sensex. Your equity allocation would have gone way below what you wanted to be in equity. Now, this was time to rebalance your portfolio. So effectively, asset allocation, one, forces you to do discipline, diversify, and apne mein kahavat hai ki don't put all your eggs in one basket. Same thing is applicable in asset allocation. And the second thing is to buy low and sell high is one way to make money, or is the only way to make money. How do you do this? The asset allocation forces you to buy when valuations are in your favor and sell when valuations are against you. So this is the commonsensical approach to generating above inflation return consistently on your portfolio.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So here, one very, very important point that, okay, for an individual, I myself will define what is my risk profile and what is my investment, horizon or objective for that matter. How do one judges the market right now? Say a new investor comes to market today, and he sees a lot of volatility. How would you advise him to start his investment journey?
Sure. So number one, गौरव भाई, कल क्या होने वाले वो तो भगवान ही बता सकता है, फंड मैनेजर कभी नहीं बता सकता.
Right.
So don't expect that I will be able to time the market to perfection. When markets are rising, whatever you sell will have a short-term loss. आज बेचा उसकी जगह कल बेचते तो भाव और ऊपर जाता.
Correct.
कल की जगह परसों बेचते तो भाव और ऊपर जाता. So don't expect that someone will be able to tell you this is the top, sell everything and move out. That doesn't happen in real life. At the same time, in a falling market, when you buy, आज जो खरीदा उसके ऊपर लॉस है.
Correct.
Because आज की जगह कल खरीदते तो और पैसा कम लगता. But you still have to go and buy because you never know where the bottom is. So number one rule of asset allocation is don't expect anyone to tell you which is the top, which is the bottom. What you have to capture is overvaluation and undervaluation. Okay. Now I'll talk about Kotak Balance Advantage Fund, where we have been demonstrating this for last 2 years. Okay. This is one of our fund which is at all-time high NAV despite markets being lower than all-time high. Here we have a quantitative model which allows us to divide our equity allocation depending upon the valuation of the market. Okay. We divide 20 to 80% of fund in pure equity. Effectively, thumb rule at 20 to 40% equity allocation means we are underweight equity. 60 to 80% means we are overweight equity. And 40 to 60% we are neutral weight equity. तो मोटा मोटा इसका allocation देख के आपको पता चल जाएगा should we be overweight, underweight or neutral. Now the proof of cake is in eating it. On 17th of Jan, when Nifty touched 12,352, our fund pure equity allocation came down to 39%. Now, with the benefit of hindsight, we should have made it 20%, which was permitted under our fund offer document, or actually 0%, because that would have made more money for our investors. Right. But please remember that only God can do, fund manager cannot do it. Now, on 24th of March, when Nifty was 7,801 Nifty, we were 75% in equity. Now, with the benefit of hindsight, we should have been 80%, which was maximum permittable, or even better, 100% or 200%, which was not permitted. that would have made maximum money for our investors. But again, that can only be done by God, not by human being. And on 31st August, when Nifty is about 11,387, we are at 45% equity, which is neutral weight. Now, this is a quantitative model which allows people to determine underweight, overweight, and neutral weight. It doesn't allow you to sell at the top, buy right at the bottom. But despite not doing that and following disciplined process, we have been able to deliver better return than market. So this is the way to evaluate whether an asset class has become expensive or it has become cheaper. इसी चीज को आप रिवर्स में देख लीजिए. गौरव भाई, जब आप पान की दुकान पे खड़े और पान वाला आपको बोले कि ये शेयर खरीद लीजिए, या टैक्सी ऑटो में जा रहे हैं और वो बंदा आपसे पूछे कि स्टॉक मार्केट कैसा लगता है, जनरली दैट इज द टॉप ऑफ द मार्केट. व्हेन यू आर फ्रॉम स्टॉक मार्केट, फ्रॉम इन्वेस्टमेंट कम्युनिटी, एंड आपके घर वाले भी आपसे कतराने लगे, आप पार्टी में जाओ और सब आपसे दूर चले जाए, you know this is the bottom of the market, because अब किसी को आप में इंटरेस्ट नहीं है.
Correct.
Even this kind of psychological behavior will tell you कि ये मार्केट का बॉटम है, ये मार्केट का टॉप है. ये दोनों का कॉम्बिनेशन आप यूज कर सकते हैं for deciding whether this market I should be overweight or whether this market I should be underweight.
Makes sense. This is an interesting insight. Here, understood the point of, analyzing the market on different parameters to, basically come back. And I think the most common point here is disciplined investing. A most important part where, I don't lose out my discipline that, okay, hey, I should be, I should be basically taking the investment in a staggered manner, maybe, for some time, or should I do a lump sum depending on the market situation, market behavior, or I am a conservative guy, but I thought that market is looking cheap. Let me just put everything in markets right away in equity. So I think discipline is a very, very important, word or a process that we shall have in the investing. Here, we started talking about market itself. What's your view on the markets these days? We've been hearing a lot about, government, doesn't have money to spend. There are problems coming in due to moratorium. The NBFC segment is facing, daily basis we are seeing GSEC looking at too much volatility, and our IND itself has a VGQM model versus stocks. We daily basis are looking too much volatility in the stock movement, leading to regular changes in the analysis, outcome, the recommendation. So what's your view on the market right now?
So undoubtedly, Gaurav bhai, we are in a perfect storm. Medical crisis, economic crisis, and financial crisis एक साथ is hitting our economy.
Yes.
Global economy is no different. And compared to other countries, we took the call of saving lives rather than livelihood in early part of pandemic. Now, slowly, as fatality rate has come down, we have started opening up economy. So there's no doubt in my mind that FY21 companies will report very, very bad results. They will incur huge losses. And market will have to value these companies on FY22 rather than FY21. We have seen market going from optimism to extreme pessimism back to optimism in just between Jan 2020 to August 2020.
Correct.
8 महीनों में 360 degree हम घूम गए.
Correct.
Now, at this point of time, as I mentioned, our Balance Advantage Fund has taken a neutral equity allocation call. We think valuations are little above fair value. They are not as cheap as they were in March 20, but they are not as expensive as they were in Jan 20. The market movement from here onwards will depend upon events. आज 11,500 निफ्टी के ऊपर मार्केट ने कुछ एक्सपेक्टेशन बनाई है. What are those expectations? One, market is assuming resumption of normal economic activities as lockdowns are lifted and medical solution is expected to be found.
Correct.
In case we accelerate resumption of normal economic activity, market will rise from here. In case there is a delay in resumption of normal economic activity, markets will fall. The second thing which market is expecting is institutional buying led by foreigners as well as domestic investors. Today in market, mutual fund, insurance companies, foreign portfolio investors and retail investors all are buying. Now, as long as we see this buying continuing, prices will be supported.
Right.
In case there is any selling by this segment, prices could come under pressure.
Right.
Third, market is pricing in recovery in FY 2022. India has become current account surplus in FY 21 because of lower gold import, lower oil import, and potentially lower trade deficit with China.
Yeah.
Now, that benefit should be reflected into FY 22 earnings. We are also expecting a lot of foreign direct investments coming out of China into India. These are all global companies moving their base out of China to India.
Right.
Now, if that happens, our growth gets changed. Third, there is hope that the monetary and fiscal stimulus announced by government and RBI will revive our economy.
Correct.
So if these expectations are met in terms of resumption of normal economic activity and better economic growth, markets will continue to rise from here. If those expectations are not met, market will fall. So events will determine what shape markets will take from here onwards.
Understood. No, makes sense. With regards to event, as we talk about, we always try to, and I was reading one of your articles the other day, your interviews basically, where you mentioned about being selectively optimistic or selectively opportunistic, maybe. So I wanted to understand a bit more. And, one of our users actually posed the same question. What exactly do you mean by, being selectively opportunistic? And what
Sure.
on, next, decade investing, what do you think would be the, key theme for India to basically move out of this crisis and become the leader again in certain sectors which you believe?
Sure. So today what has happened that there are a lot of retail investor participation, and that has pulled many stocks up irrespective of their fundamentals. So when we say selective, be selective about the companies which you are buying based on their fundamentals rather than based on their price movement.
Okay.
What do we mean by opportunistic? Well, you have to buy stocks which are available below their fair value or are available around their fair value. This has been opportunistic. Now, what will be this selective opportunistic put together? So we believe you have to choose companies which have following characteristics.
Okay.
One, the debt burden should be moderate. If debt is lower, the chances of that company surviving the downturn is far, far higher. You can only make money by investing in a company which will be there to participate in the upside. ये डाउनसाइड में डेट बर्डन की वजह से मर गई तो अपने को क्या पैसा बना के देगी. So invest in companies which are moderately leveraged. Second, you have to invest in companies which are leader in their industry. If you are a Me Too player, you won't be able to survive in the downturn. But if you are top 3, 4, 5 players, you will be able to withstand the uncertainty. So invest with leaders. Third, leader can be like dinosaur. पूंछ में आग लगी है, 5 दिन बाद डायनासोर को पता चला कि पूंछ जल रही है. Dinosaurs will become extinct in this digital era.
Right.
Cockroaches will survive. So you need to be nimble and adaptive like a cockroach compared to dinosaur. Companies will have to cut costs. They'll have to reinvent themselves for digital adoption. They'll have to become nimble, fleet-footed to survive the downturn. Unless your portfolio of companies show these characteristics, one should stay away from them.
Makes sense, and the analogy is also making sense. Here, one interesting question comes that when you talk about finding the investment opportunity, we always see that okay, some of the stocks are rising, and there is a proper debate between is their valuation right, or because they are quality stocks, they are the leader of their industry, they should be part of our portfolio even though their valuations are a bit on a higher side. What's your which side do you generally take when it comes to debating between valuation and quality?
So, Gaurav bhai, quality doesn't come cheap.
Correct.
If you want to hire Virat Kohli as your brand ambassador or Amitabh Bachchan as your brand ambassador, you have to pay the price. You can't expect them to come at a discount. Now, at the same time, if you buy something at a much higher price than its fair value, your chances of making extraordinary return comes down. So you have to be extremely careful about what is market pricing in a quality stock and what do you expect in terms of performance from that quality stock. So for example, let's say 100 PE stock is expected to grow at 30%, and you believe that this company will grow at 35%, then it's a buy for you because you believe growth rate will be higher than what is priced by the market.
Correct.
But if a 10 PE stock is expected to grow by 5% by market and you believe it will degrow by 5%, it's a sell for you because you are saying that this company will underperform market expectation. So whenever you are buying a stock, compare what you believe will be the performance vis-a-vis what is priced by the market in order to take a buy decision or sell decision.
Makes sense. This is interesting. But at the same point in time, with what we saw recently in the markets, when the rally came back after the March lows, we saw some of the handful of the stocks were driving actually the markets. Roughly 16, 15, 16 stocks were giving you the outperformance, and the remaining 35 odd stocks of Nifty 50 were not so supporting the rally. Similarly, we saw the similar trend in your small caps and mid caps as well. The top 20 or top 25 stocks are the ones which are taking the whole indices ahead. When this particular, when we understand that, Fed is also, giving you free hand about liquidity, you have so much money coming in right now. And as you rightly mentioned, everybody is buying, everybody has this point that, okay, we have so much money, let's just buy, buy, buy. When this money goes back, do you think, let's say 1 year down the line, 2 year down the line, situation improves and, some bit of interest rate hike we see from, developed nations. Do you see this money moving out in a haste from markets like India? Because we still do not have those great fundamentals that we want to achieve in next 2, 3, 5 years. We have still, not able to build that kind of infrastructure. And this COVID, before COVID as well, we were in a downturn with regards to our economic growth. So where do you see, this money, will it stop? Do you think it'll go back as we see the rise in rates over there in developed markets?
So one, will the world will have more liquidity post-COVID than pre-COVID? Answer is undoubtedly yes. Will the world have lesser interest rates post-COVID than pre-COVID? Undoubtedly, answer is yes. So we are visualizing a world which will be full of liquidity, in fact, excess liquidity and lower interest rate.
Right.
Now, if you are going to get 0.25%, 0.5% by investing in safe government securities in G7 countries, you might as well take risk of investing in equity at a higher price.
Correct.
Number two, globally investors will search for growth. And compared to many other countries, India can provide long-term growth opportunities if our house is in order.
Yes, correct.
So money will be available for growth country as much as they need, as long as they are on the growth path. Number three, people will make assumption about our future growth trajectory based on present steps which we are taking. In 91, India had 14 days FX reserves.
Correct.
We were on the verge of default. We had to pledge gold
Yes.
to raise money. But at the same time, we were liberalizing, we were removing barriers which had restricted India for decades. We made our economy competitive, open for foreign investment. And from those days, markets have given fantastic return. So people will look at our response in 2020 COVID to see whether we are on the path of growth or not. If our growth trajectory is better than the world, I think money will flow to India. We wouldn't have to worry about adequacy of money.
Understood. This makes sense. uh Here, these days we are hearing a lot about, gold being a, obviously generated huge returns. A lot of people have made money in it. Again, going back to the asset allocation discussion, I wanted to have 10% allocation in alternates, which was gold to me. Now with the rise in, gold prices and all, we saw that particular 10% becoming 20-23% right now. Do you see, although the situation is still, the analysts are still analyzing the way, the central banks have too much money and the government yields are not that much, or at least they are never in the range of lucracy right now. You would want to switch to you want to take some bit of a risk to generate some bit of alpha right now. So do you see gold still, making sense to people's portfolio? If, let's say, I am a new investor, I have $100 and I want to allocate 10% to alternates, do you see gold, right now being a good asset to diversify my money at this particular level as well?
So our view is that one should be overweight gold. We gave this call somewhere in February 2020 when gold was trading about $1,450. And it has worked out very well in a very short period of time beyond our expectation. Obviously, when we gave a call in February, we had no idea it will touch $1,950 as we speak. But certainly, we were expecting trajectory of gold to be upwards. Our analysis was based on past experience, where between November 2008 to September 2011, gold prices moved from $750 to almost $1,900. Whenever world has low interest rates and high liquidity, gold prices get supported. And from 2020 onwards, that scenario is likely to prevail. Low interest rates, high liquidity, higher gold prices, that equation should hold, just like between 2008 to 2011. There is one more reason why we are bullish on gold. China today is facing multiple cases around the world for COVID-19 cost. Their $3 trillion FX reserve is invested in yen, euro, dollar securities. What if one judge decides to confiscate China's assets and adjust it against COVID-19 cost? China won't be able to do anything.
Correct.
This fear can push China to invest in gold. Gold will be always with them, not with other countries.
Correct.
Even if China shifts 10% of its FX reserves, we are looking about buying of $300 billion. The annual supply of gold is much less than that. Now you can imagine what will happen to gold prices if our hypothesis on China's gold acquisition comes true. Put all these things together, we believe gold is likely to go higher over the years. It doesn't mean that it won't come down tomorrow. It can, it's a commodity. But take a 3 to 5 year view, gold prices will move higher from current level. Just one caveat for investors. Gold prices in India has 12.5% import duty component built in.
Correct.
If tomorrow government decides to bring down gold import duty to zero, in one single day, you will lose 12.5% of your portfolio in gold. So subject to that caveat, it is time to invest in gold.
Makes sense. Now this insight is really, really helpful. When we talk about, gold or, certain asset classes, we understand from, various analysts, and as you understand, market has thousands of analysts sending a lot of noise to, investors who actually just want the final, output that, okay, this should be my what is beneficial for me, what is most important to me, that should be, coming out to me, rather than that this plethora of information that I need. Here the question, one of our users, has raised a query, about real estate segment. There is a slowdown, that has been visible, with real estate players. Many of them do not have money to, start back their projects. And, with COVID related movement of people, the labor force which went back and forth is still happening. And we don't see so much of a, coming back as of now as again. What is your opinion on, specific sectors, which would be the theory of next decade for that matter in India?
So, number one, when you get a long research report, the conclusion is buy, hold, or sell.
Correct.
But that buy, hold, or sell is based on certain expectations. As actual events differ from those expectations, the recommendation also will change. Now, it is important to read the whole report so that you can correlate expectations priced by the market vis-a-vis actual events happening.
Right.
Let's say, for example, someone in Jan 20 gave a buy call on aviation sector. Now, this is based on assumptions that flyers will fly. Now, if flyers stop flying because of COVID-19, you can't hold that recommendation of buy valid.
Correct.
You must understand that buy recommendation was based on uninterrupted flying, and in absence of that, the recommendation has changed.
Correct.
Similarly, today a hotel is shut down. It's incurring losses.
Right.
The share price has fallen. But someone could give a recommendation based on asset value of the hotel and put a buy. Now, one can say that, or how can I buy this hotel when the business is shut? But if you read the report, you will know why you have to buy the hotel, even though the business is shut.
Correct.
So it's important to read fine prints rather than just the headline if you want to be a successful investor. Now, coming to your question on which sectors, which companies will do well, please remember that in a sector there could be good entrepreneur creating HDFC Bank or Kotak Bank kind of wealth creation, or he could be Yes Bank where wealth got destroyed.
Correct.
It's important that within sector you pick up the right person. Now, in every company, I'll recommend you to look at balance sheet to determine their financial strength. They need to be moderately leveraged.
Correct.
Second, they have to look at leadership position of the company. They must be a significant player in a sector rather than marginal player in a sector. And third, the company should be adaptive. It must adapt to COVID-19 by cutting cost.
Correct.
It must adapt to digital world as customers shift to digital world at an unprecedented pace. So once you get these characteristics of management apart from other things, that becomes your buy. So apart from sector, focus on these aspects.
Makes sense. But again, I think the whole underlying argument is that, you need to have a disciplined way of identifying those 3-4 companies, and the sector can actually follow whichever sector the companies are from. You have the right candidate to stay with for a long time. One more important point that has been in the minds of various users actually, these days we have seen a pickup in, global investing through India. A lot of platforms are offering US stocks, and at IND also we are offering, a zero cost, zero brokerage US stocks investing through, you can invest in a lot of ETFs over there. And obviously, you have too many options to invest in US as well. There are thousands of stocks available, thousands of ETFs available, and you, as an individual, you just know those 4-5 names, Amazon of the world, Facebook of the world, and you try to invest in those companies. And then again, you see at one hand that there is a huge spike in the, returns that people are looking at those, companies, individual companies, or maybe India based, ETF or funds as well, which are investing in US. So what's your opinion over there with regards to, should we invest right now in the US market, considering the election is coming? There's a lot of uncertainty with regards to the current, president. Will he be able to win it, or the new guy comes in? Will there be a change in policies? What's your opinion right now in the markets with regards to US investments, for that matter?
So one, Gaurav, you must invest in companies, funds which you understand. Just because XYZ company, XYZ country delivered great return, you don't rush into it without understanding fundamentals.
Right.
About about a decade back, there was one fund house which was launched with the global parentage and global brand, saying that, do you know which country delivered maximum return last year? And it was in 2007, before 2007, before subprime crisis. It was Iceland, up some 100% plus. Now, next year, Iceland got melted. Ice and land dono separate ho gaye. So invest in countries, companies which you understand. Second, like alternate assets, your allocation to offshore assets should be a smaller percentage of your portfolio rather than larger percentage of portfolio, unless until you understand risks very well. Invest where your familiarity is, because that familiarity will allow you to buy when chips are down. But in case you don't have familiarity and you suffer a loss, you will end up selling at the wrong time.
Right.
And you won't be able to participate in the gain which should have legitimately accrued to you.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Here, I'll go back to that asset allocation theory here. So discipline is there with regards to investments. Should a individual investor have discipline with regards to profit booking as well? And if yes, how should he identify that level? That, okay, should I book my profit when I'm up 30%? Should I book my profit when I up 1 lakh rupees, 2 lakh rupees? What's your opinion on booking a profit?
So again, Gaurav, if Jeff Bezos would have booked profit on Amazon, he would not have become as rich as he is today.
Yeah.
So we are comparing for ordinary individual investors, not for extraordinary sets of investors. But asset allocation is exactly the same. Let's assume you started your journey in let's say September 2018, just before the ILFS crisis erupted. You were invested in equity. Now, from September 18 all the way to almost July 2019, markets continued to fall. You would have lost money on your equity allocation.
Right.
This was time to buy more and bring it to the same level. Now, July 19 to Jan 20, markets went up. Your equity allocation would have delivered you better return. Your allocation to equity would have gone beyond your normal allocation. That was the time to take some profit. You don't have to do it on a daily basis, but once in a quarter, once in the 6 months is good enough. Now, in March 20, again, your equity would have gone below your normal allocation. That was time to buy. And who knows, in August 20, you would have booked some profit. So following asset allocation will forces you to buy when you are in losses. That is when markets have become cheaper, and book profit when markets are becoming expensive.
In investment world, there are two very, very important terms. One is your asset allocations. Second is your security selection. When we do the performance attribution, these two pointers makes too much sense. And as we read studies, asset allocation actually forms roughly 70 to 75% part of your total return that you are able to generate. So it does make sense to have a logical asset allocation strategy. Under equity itself, say, when we identify asset allocation strategy, say 60% equity, 30%, your debt, and remaining 10% is split between your global or maybe alternate asset, be it a commodity like a gold or anyone else. Under equity itself, how should one look at the different categories to park their money? Again, would you recommend the bottom up strategy where I have certain stocks on certain rule based approach of having lesser leverage, having more growth potential than other companies, or being an industry leader themselves? Or would you say that in large cap itself I'll identify, then in mid cap also I will try to identify certain stocks? What's your take on that?
So you have to invest based on your risk profile and based on the valuation of the market. If you are a conservative investor, be oriented towards large cap. If you are aggressive investors, be oriented towards small and mid cap and sector fund. If you are average investors, be oriented towards multi cap fund and large and mid cap fund. Now, it doesn't mean that a conservative investor can't have allocation to small and mid cap, but his allocation to small and mid cap should be when small and mid caps have become extremely cheap rather than normal. By aligning your allocation to equity vis-a-vis your risk profile, you ensure that in a falling market, you are not moved emotionally and you don't end up taking a panic decision. So look at your risk profile and invest rather than looking at the return potential and then invest.
Makes sense. I think this is the key advice when it comes to what should a investor who start maybe 2-3 years down the line, he did some investment and saw huge losses. I think 360 review is visible to him right now. His 10 rupees became 5 and his 5 actually became 11 now. So this particular asset allocation theory makes too much sense and give the confidence to the user that okay, I understand what is my investment horizon, what is my accordingly I'm parking. One last question I will pose to you, it is with regards to the debt investments. We all have seen, the credit issue that we saw in a lot of mutual funds. We saw, uh, you know, uh, uh, closing down of some schemes as well. In case of Franklin and all, we also saw some bit of markdown because of the risks that were there in the debt portfolios of a lot of mutual funds. At this particular juncture, we have some of the treasury users, some UHNI and HNI, and then a normal user. What should be the the theory of having a liquid fund to beat kind of a FD return? That theory is gone now because we all saw what happened in the YTMs of the liquid fund and the return and the volatility that we are visiting right now. What's your opinion? Of a different time horizon, how would you divide the category of the debt investment options?
So Gaurav bhai, see what happened in the month of April was restricted to one mutual fund. This had happened in 2008 subprime crisis also, where one foreign mutual fund had to stop redemptions in liquid fund and lock in customers. But rest of us continued doing our business. The same thing got repeated in 2020, where one foreign mutual fund had to take decision based on their profile. However, all others continued doing their business without any problem.
Right.
Now, the headlines have been in public media as well as social media that debt funds have seen massive outflows. The number for the month of April in terms of investment flow in debt fund was 48,000 crore plus. In May, it was 60,000 crore plus. June, when normally institutional investors redeem money, we ended up still 15,000 crore plus. July, August also has been plus. And yet, after 5 months of positive flows since April, people still come and ask me, Nilesh bhai, debt fund mein to outflow hai na? I don't know why people don't read data and why people go in wrong direction by reading headlines.
I think it's about the the headlines plus the noise that comes out with the headline.
Absolutely. आपने एकदम सही कहा. लोग हेडलाइन पढ़ते हैं and
assumption
you
बना
know people don't appreciate the facts, but when you go by headline you end up taking panic decision.
correct
अप्रैल में जब ये हुआ तो बहुत सारे लोगों ने व्हाट्सएप पे, सोशल मीडिया पे, टीवी पे लोगों को कहा कि आप डेट फंड्स में रिडीम कर दीजिए. नाउ देयर वर सम इन्वेस्टर्स जो पैनिक कर गए, उन्होंने रिडीम किया. अब सारे डेट फंड्स का आप पिछले 5 महीनों का रिटर्न देख लो, मई, जून, जुलाई, अगस्त का और सितंबर का अब तक का, we have delivered far better return.
right
Now this investors who panicked and redeemed, will they go to those WhatsApp gurus and social media warriors कि भैया तेरी सुन के तो हमारी लग गई?
correct
No, they will not go there. नुकसान खाने के बाद भी वो उनके पास जाके नहीं पूछ रहे कि बॉस कौन सी हेडलाइन तू छाप रहा था, क्या एनालिसिस कर रहा था. I think money management is a very, very serious issue, and people need to take decisions based on facts and data, not by WhatsApp messages. In fact, I will recommend that you must have one advisor or a mutual fund distributor with you. These are the people who are professionals. आप कभी केमिस्ट की दुकान में जाके ये तो नहीं कहते भाई बुखार है मेरे को दवाई दे दे या सर दर्द है दवाई दे दे. You always go to a doctor. Same way, why are you coming to mutual funds and saying that मुझे क्या डिसीजन लेना है?
right
Go to your advisor, go to your mutual fund distributor, get good consultation and then take a call. If you are educated, smart, well informed, then you can come direct. But if you are not going to invest in financial literacy, then please come by an advisor or a distributor. That will be more appropriate. Panic decisions are always wrong, and April episode again proved that people who went by headlines, WhatsApp messages, tweet post, they actually took a wrong decision.
makes I think you're bang on when you say that in since I think April till today we have seen beautiful performance by a lot of debt funds for that matter. Obviously, with the movement of GSEC, the YTMs always behave accordingly, which is fine. But panic decisions always lead to your loss of capital or maybe loss of gains that they were looking at those particular points in time with regards to their investment option. No, it does. It makes sense. I think we have covered most of the questions, sir. Really, really appreciate your time on the Money Management Show with IND. I think the main outcome was disciplined investing along with a logical plan. What exactly do we want to do? Individual with a risk profile, with a proper idea that what he wants to do with his money, and looking at the market to invest at the right time. I think it makes sense to have a proper asset allocation to go, with the investment strategy in the markets. And I'm sure, a compounding benefit can be taken with the markets, moving in favor of us as we go along in the future as well. Thank you so much for your
Thank
time.
you, Gaurav.